Okay, we're going to get started today on making our rainbow keychain utilizing some macrame cord that we are going to wrap together in yarn. If you received a kit from the library, I tried to give 5 different colors of yarn to everybody, and they were random colors just so that everyone could kind of mix and match, and maybe if they got one color that they didn't like, maybe there was something else that they liked instead. I chose my 3 colors just kind of based off of a rainbow, but a different take off of the rainbow. So if you think of Roy G. Biv, so I picked this kind of corally color, yellow, and then the purpley color at the end for the violet. I have 3 lengths of macrame cord, which I already started wrapping. This one I'll show you how to do it. This one is about 7 1/4, 7 1/2, and then 6 1/2 and 5 1/2 inches in length. I also have a key ring. I have a piece of tape that I will use to tape down my macrame cord so that it is easier to wrap my yarn. And then I have some felt backing. So what we'll do eventually is we'll have our cord on here. And you could cut your rainbow shape out first and then glue your cord down, but I don't trust myself to make sure that I can get the shape correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue mine down first, and then I will trim and cut my felt. You can also trace it like this and then cut it out. But if I have a pretty sharp small pair of scissors that I use for embroidery, so I know I can really get close around here. But you can do whatever you feel most comfortable with. If you want to trace your rainbow shape out first, your arch, and cut it, and then glue it on here, or if you want to do what I'm going to try to do, which is to place it and then cut around, which might be a little more difficult, a little more fiddly, but I just want to make sure. And then I'm going to use some clear school glue. I would probably use hot glue for this, or maybe like a stronger tacky craft glue. There's some, it's literally called tacky glue, and that works really well for things like fabric. But this project is really, really easy, and it gives you a foundation to see how you can make something like this that's bigger. Maybe you make a wall hanging, a decoration for your door, what have you. So I'll show you how I got this one started, which is really simple. All I did was I just tied a tiny little knot, not even like a knot, just like the beginning of a shoelace knot, like half a square knot. Just a little bit down, so the top I want to leave some of this loose because it's going to be our little fringy bits. That's the fun part about working with macrame cord, is this little fringy bit. Looks really nice and fun, and I like that. So we went down just a little bit, like 3/4 of an inch, half an inch. It's like half an inch, yeah. So I just did my little like half square knot. And then I'm going to take my tape and I'm just going to tape just the very, very tip here, just so it doesn't move around so much. And then this little tail here from the knot, we don't want to see that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it down here. And as I am wrapping my yarn around, you're really just wrapping, not complicated at all. I'm going to make sure that I tuck this little tail in there. And at first I'm not really going to be super neat because I will neaten it up, but I'm just trying to get started. I'm not super neat, I'm not doing it super tight right now. Just trying to get it started to cover that tail. It's a little easier if you're doing this more towards the edge of your surface, like if you have this on a table, if you go towards the edge of your surface, but that doesn't work for me for filming right now, so, because then you have a little more freedom to wrap your yarn around. It works better, just trust me. But yeah, so I'm just going to keep wrapping this and making sure that there are no little bald spots where I can see the cream color of the macrame cord. And then see, so that tail gets tucked in all on its own without me having to worry about it. Like if we were knitting or crocheting, I might have to worry about sewing that in or being very particular about that edge. No problem here. It just gets all covered really easily. And then you just continue and you go all the way down. And then I'll show you how to end it once we get all the way down. Okay, now I'm getting to the end here, and I want to leave about the same amount that I had at the top. I'm going to bring my yarn underneath my last loop here. Just make sure that all of my little fringe is in place. Just tie a little knot. All right. And then what you can do to make sure that this is secure is dab on a little bit of your glue. So I have a little knot here. I might just tie even just one more little. It's not as seamless as the top one, and that's just the nature of it, but we're doing this the nice, easy way. So, and put a dab of glue just to help secure the threads. Let that dry, and I can also, when I put my keychain together on top of my felt, this can be the end that I put towards the back so nobody sees it. All right, so I'm going to do the next two, and then we'll come back together to put it together. I'm going to show you this with hot glue as well. So with the hot glue, I'm barely even squeezing it. I'm just a little squeeze. You can see there's just the tiniest little bead, and I'm kind of just smushing where the knot is. And it really seals those fibers in there. And again, then this is the spot that I'm going to hide on the back of my felt. All right, I have one more to go. Here we go. Okay, so I figured one more time I would show you how to end this little knot here. So I have my yarn, and I don't tightly wrap it around on this last rotation. I take my free end that has not been wrapping around. Okay, so see this last loop, right? So here we go. So my yarn is coming underneath here, and I'm going to put my yarn through this last loop. Right, so see there, it's coming out from underneath, and I pull it. Right, so now, can't see because it's tightened in there. It's tucked, there it is. It's tucked right under that last little loop. And then you can create just, you can either, if you are using the hot glue, you can just trim it and hot glue it right here like this, because it'll stay pretty secure. Or you can create just a tiny little knot, trim it, and then use your either your craft glue or your hot glue. I really like the hot glue, so if you do need your grown-up to help you with this, go ahead, but the hot glue works the best. I'm just going to trim it. And seal it down with the hot glue. I trimmed it a little too long there, but this is just for illustration purposes. Right, so I've just barely got a little bead on here, and for the most part I'm just using the tip of the hot glue. This metal tip is the hot part, so that's where you need to be careful with your fingers, be careful with your skin. And I've barely used any glue, so it's not oozing all over the place, so it's not going to drip on me, but I'm smoothing it down with this hot tip, and that's going to help keep it secure. Okay, so those are my 3 pieces. And they will form my rainbow. Look at that. So, I'm gonna get this. So we're going to have the little ends, the little tassel ends, hanging off of the edge of our felt because we want it to be free. We want that to be the fun dangly part, right? So, got that. I'm just laying it out here first. Got that. And then the last one on top. All right, so there we go. So I'm going to glue these down one by one. The other thing that I'm going to do is I have my key ring here, is I do want to attach this to my top one. So I've given you this jump ring. It should still be open when I've given it to you. Mine is not open, I closed it. All right, there we go. It should still be open. And then right in the middle here, you can just loop it around one of your pieces of yarn. Okay, there we go. And loop it around your yarn, and then you can, pretty hard to smush it closed with your fingers, so I use a pair of pliers. Okay, there we go. So now this, my rainbow has its little key loop on there. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and start gluing this down, make sure it gets into the position that I want it to get into and it looks how I want it to look. And then I'll trim everything and we'll be good to go. So I'm going to put my bead of glue on what I've deemed to be the back. Just a thin bead of glue. Again, especially if you're using hot glue, go less. It is going to bond with the fibers. And also, I don't want it dripping on us because it is painful. Okay, so now I'm going to flip it over carefully and arrange it into the arch shape that I'm looking for. And then I'll press and hold it for just a moment, and it's going to just bond right with those fibers in the felt. Okay, same thing for the yellow one. And I definitely have a side that I think is the back where I glued my knot. Okay, careful, careful, careful. Flip it around again carefully. We do not want to get the hot glue on our hands, so handle this now by these macrame ropes at the end, that cream color rope. Okay, and you do have a moment to readjust here. Again, just be careful of the hot glue. I am kind of getting it on me, but my glue gun is not that hot, and at this point I can handle it. Okay. And then we'll do the last one. For me is this kind of pinkish color. My key ring is on the back. Just a thin bead of glue. See, it's a really thin bead of glue, and if you're using a low temp glue gun, it does cool down pretty quickly, but still I'm doing my best not to touch and to hold on by these cream color fibers of our center cord instead. Okay. Oops. Then you're like me and you're going to drop it and you're going to get it everywhere. Get it into place. And secure it down. I took too long. My hot glue already started to dry. So see, if you're using a low temperature hot glue gun, it really does dry and cool down pretty quickly. Okay, there we go. There's my rainbow. Again, you can play with your shape however you want. All right, there's my rainbow. I keep doing this off camera. What am I doing? Okay, there's my rainbow. You can play around with your shape how you want. You could do like a taller, skinnier. You could do whatever you want. And then just make sure that it's nice and secure. My key ring is nice and secure because I looped it into my thread. You could also, if you don't have pliers, before you even start, and I'll put this in your written instructions, but before you even start, you could thread your cord through the key ring, or when you're wrapping, you can go ahead and put your yarn through, there we go, you can put your yarn through here, and that way it's kind of hooked in as you're wrapping. I have pliers and I'm comfortable using jewelry pliers all the time, so that was the easy way for me, but you can thread it through first. Just make sure again that you're doing this on your longest loop, right? Okay, so now I'm going to grab a good pair of scissors and I'm going to trim all of this felt. I like to do from both sides first, so you start on one side then the other, so that when you have to go try to get in the middle, you have this flap now and it makes it easier to get and cut the center. Okay, and I'm just going to even out and tidy up my felt edges. Okay, and so then the last thing that you do is, I like to pick apart these cords. Like I said, this is kind of the look. If you've seen anything with these cords before, we call these macramé cords, this cotton cording. Usually the bottom is all fluffed out, which is really nice. So I'm going to fluff it out, which just means just untangling it. When I work on a bigger project, if you saw the owl that I did with the adults, I used a brush and I brushed it out. And a little trick that a lot of adults use with their macrame is they put hairspray on it, and that keeps their cords all fluffed out pretty, but you don't have to do that. And then you can trim it. So on this side they're actually all pretty even, on this side they're not. So I'm going to trim, and then if I trim this side I'll have to trim the other side, I'm sure. Okay. Kind of want them to be a little more even, so I'm going to trim this side now. Okay, and that's it. That's my keychain. Oops. Okay, that's my keychain. I can put it anywhere I want. Or, like I said, if you didn't want to attach the key ring, you could hang this up in your locker. Maybe you can go get a magnet and put a magnet on the back too. Stick it in your locker if you have a message board in your room or anything like that. You could even use the key ring to hang it up on your door for a decoration. Alright, so that is it for this month's craft. I hope that you have fun. I hope that you enjoy your colors. I hope you enjoy bringing just a little bit of color to your key ring, your lanyard, whatever you have to carry around, or even your backpack. And enjoy. We are thinking rainbows, we are thinking spring, we are looking forward to warm, sunny weather and all the great things that come with it. So I hope this brings you some of that joy. Alright, everybody, I'll see you next time.